We begin this news hour in Kenya, where people are bracing for a possible legal battle over the outcome of a closely fought presidential election. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has rejected the results, calling them a travesty. His opponent, the current Vice President William Ruto, has been declared the winner. It's not clear if Mr. Odinga will approach the Supreme Court, which has the final say on the matter. 4 of the 7 members of the Electoral Commission refused to endorse the outcome.
Announced by Mr. What we saw yesterday was a travesty and a blatant disregard of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya by Mr. Chebukati and a minority of IEBC commissioners. The law is clear on the role of the chairperson of the IEBC. The law does not vest in the chairperson the powers of a dictator to rule the IEBC unilaterally. But suffice it to note that we will be pursuing all constitutional and legal options available to us. We will do so because we regard the many flaws in the elections and the wrongs committed by the IEBC as fatal to the process and the outcome announced by Mr. Chebukati.
We state categorically that the results of the presidential election held in August 9, 2022, declared and announced by Mr. Wafula Chebukati on August 15, 2022, belonged to himself and do not represent the declaration and announcement by Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Well, the head of the Electoral Commission announced on Monday that William Ruto had received just over 50% of the vote. That's less than 2% ahead of Mr. Odinga. Meanwhile, election observers say the results are fair.
ELOG notes that despite ongoing challenges and clear areas for reform, the 2022 general elections registered improvements from the 2017 process and culminated in an enhanced, open and secured results management process.
Well, for the very latest, we can cross live to Nairobi and join Arise East Africa correspondent Mark Bichachi. Good to see you, Mark. We heard Mr. Odinga there addressing a news conference and taking particular aim at the chairman of the Electoral Commission. Tell us more about what he said.
Well, the issue here, Charles, is very interesting. That number one, the claim is not that the entire election was rigged. It is that Wafula Chebukati assumed authorities and powers that are beyond his constitutional mandate, in that he made a decision without giving sight to his commissioners as to how he got to the numbers. Now, it must be understood that the difference of numbers between the winner and Raila Odinga is less than 200,000 votes. 200,000 votes out of a vote that had 14 million votes is a very small number. And if it was just 50,000 less, we would be speaking of a runoff election. So the stakes are high simply because of how small a difference there is. And if indeed Mr. Wafula Chebukati did announce the result without going through his commission, then what he did would be considered an illegality. This is what Raila Odinga is talking about. However, Wafula Chebukati in his statement insisted that he is within the law to do what was expected of him. The other mystery that is still missing is there were some constituencies that are yet to be announced how many results they got, so that we could get to arrive to the figure of 7.1 million votes to Dr. William Ruto. So that really is the main crux of contention. The secondary one is they're claiming that there were many discrepancies on the floor of the IEBC as the votes were being counted, and those discrepancies to them define a material breach of the results of the election and making them illegal.
And I wonder if you heard the clip we played earlier, Mark. I wonder what the response has been to the chair of the Kenyan observation group which monitored the election, saying that their projections corresponded to the results announced by the Electoral Commission.
Yes, indeed. So the reaction has not been much, simply because this country is split. So the people who believe in William Ruto's victory are hailing this as a true sign that they won the election, while the other side is dismissing them, saying that even in 2017, when the election was dismissed as irregular and illegal, they did issue a similar statement. And it must be understood that the contention here, as it is in this country oftentimes, is not about how far the elections went in terms of the voting day, in terms of the tallying in the various constituency tallying centers. The question is national. When you talk about the country's tallying center at Bomas of Kenya, did they finish the process legally? And this is where the four commissioners come in. They say that the last few constituencies were not tallied equally. And yes, indeed, all projections did indicate that there would be a difference of less than 200,000 votes. But the question is, were the discrepancies enough to create a situation where there was a runoff, or did Odinga win by a similar margin? So that's really the question that people are asking. And let's not forget that Kenyans typically would dismiss observer missions because they believe in their politicians more than they believe in observers.
Right, and we're hearing, Mark, that those four dissenting electoral commissioners were appointed to their posts just before the election by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has been supporting the losing candidate Raila Odinga. I wonder if there's an element of partisanship here.
Well, first and foremost, I must explain the process of choosing commissioners. Commissioners are not chosen singularly by the president. It is a competitive process. They even go to parliament for parliament to vet them and endorse them. It is just that the president is the one who's given the final list, and then he endorses who is going to be a commissioner. That being said, it is indeed a partisan commission. This is apparent. Why is it apparent? Because number one, the three commissioners, including the chair, Wafula Chebukati, were the commissioners who refused to resign when there was political pressure for them to resign. And the political pressure at the time seemed to have come from Raila Odinga's side, and therefore from the president's side. And it is no secret that Wafula Chebukati and his three have been antagonistic to the sitting president. So at the same time, it has been observed that these other four commissioners are seen to be pro-Raila and pro the sitting government. These are the political innuendos. They are not, I cannot establish them as fact, but these are the political innuendos that are commonplace within our an independent electoral boundaries commission. So this indeed is always a partisan issue, but it is not about appointment, because the president does not appoint them directly.
Sounds fascinating, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Bichachi is Arise East Africa correspondent, and he was talking to me there from Nairobi.